I need to tell you something that positive thinking gurus don't want you to know. Optimism can destroy you financially. Not pessimism, optimism. Here's why. Pessimists expect problems and prepare for them. When problems come, they're ready. They survive. Optimists expect everything to work out. Most don't prepare. When problems come, they're blindsided. They collapse. Sometimes we make it appear that hoping for the best is the best strategy to succeed, but it's not always the case. And it's keeping you broke. Let me tell you about two optimists. Same positive attitude. Same belief that things work out. 5 years later, one is wealthy, one is bankrupt. The difference? One practiced strategic optimism. One practiced delusional optimism. The Japanese call this Rakkan. Unrealistic optimism disconnected from planning. And it destroys wealth silently, while making you feel good about failure. Today, you'll learn why your optimism is costing you thousands. Why hoping for the best guarantees the worst. And how to practice optimism that actually builds wealth instead of masking poverty. Subscribe to Monetisum, like this video, and comment. Are you an optimist or a realist? Now let's talk about why your optimism is a financial liability. Chapter 1. The Two Optimists. Let me introduce you to James and Kenji. Both are 32 years old. Both are optimists. Both believe good things are coming. First, James, the delusional optimist. James got a new job paying $65,000 per year. Great opportunity. He was optimistic about his future. James told himself, I'll make more money soon. I'll get raises. I'll get promoted. Things will work out. So James made decisions based on his optimistic future, not his current reality. He bought a car, a $35,000 SUV with a $600 monthly payment. James justified this by saying, I'll be making more money soon. I can afford this. He rented an expensive apartment for $2,000 per month. James told himself, I'll get a raise this year. This is an investment in myself. He went on vacation and put $4,000 on a credit card. His thinking was, I'll pay it off when my promotion comes through. Year one passed. No raise, no promotion. Just $65,000 and growing debt. But James stayed optimistic. He kept telling himself, next year will be better. Things always work out. Year 2, James got a 3% raise. He was now earning $67,000. Still not enough to cover his optimistic lifestyle. Let me break down James's monthly situation. Car payment, $600. Rent, $2,000. Credit card debt, now at $8,000. Accruing 19% interest. Student loans, $32,000 still owed. His monthly income after taxes was $4,200. His monthly expenses were $4,800. James was going $600 deeper into debt every single month. But James kept staying positive, saying to himself, something good is coming. I can feel it. Things work out. Fast forward to year 5. James filed for bankruptcy. He had accumulated $53,000 in debt. He couldn't make minimum payments anymore. His car got repossessed. He was evicted from his apartment. His credit was destroyed. James's optimism didn't save him. It bankrupted him. Now let me tell you about Kenji, the strategic optimist. Kenji got the same job. Saved $65,000 per year. He was also optimistic about his future. But Kenji's optimism included a critical element that James lacked, planning for what happens if his optimism was wrong. Kenji asked himself this question: what if I don't get promoted? What if raises are smaller than I hope? What if I lose this job? What decisions can I make now that work even if my optimistic future doesn't happen? Kenji bought a car, a $12,000 used Toyota that he paid for in cash. 0 monthly payment. His reasoning was, if my optimistic future happens, I can upgrade later. If it doesn't, I'm not trapped. He rented a modest apartment for $1,300 per month. Kenji told himself, if I get raises, I can move later. If I don't, I'm not drowning. He took a vacation after saving for 6 months and paid cash. His thinking was, if a promotion comes, great. If not, I'm not in debt. Year 1 passed for Kenji too. No raise, no promotion, just $65,000. But Kenji's life worked because he didn't bet everything on optimism. Let me break down Kenji's monthly situation. Car payment, 0. Rent, $1,300. Credit card debt, 0. Savings, growing every month. His monthly income after taxes was $4,200, same as James. His monthly expenses were $2,800. His monthly surplus was $1,400. Year 2, Kenji got that same 3% raise that James got, now earning $67,000. Kenji saved the entire raise. It went straight to investments. His lifestyle didn't expand at all. Fast forward to year 5. Kenji had $58,000 invested and 0 debt. Both men were optimists. Both believed good things were coming. But James bet his present on his optimistic future. Kenji built his present to work regardless of his future. One version of optimism led to bankruptcy. The other version led to wealth. Chapter 2. What is Rakkan? Rakkan is a Japanese word meaning unrealistic optimism, excessive positive thinking, hope without foundation, optimism disconnected from reality and planning. Let me explain the difference between Rakkan and strategic optimism. Rakkan says this: everything will work out. Strategic optimism says this instead: everything might work out, so I'll plan for both outcomes. Rakkan says, I'll figure it out later. Strategic optimism says, I'll figure it out now, so later is easier. Rakkan says, something good is coming. Strategic optimism says, I'll build something good regardless of what's coming. Here's the critical distinction. Rakkan is passive. It waits for good things to happen. It hopes. It believes. It trusts the universe. Strategic optimism is active. It creates good outcomes while preparing for bad ones. It plans. It builds. It controls what it can control. Why Rakkan destroys wealth? Rakkan makes you spend money you don't have based on money you might earn. Rakkan makes you take risks you can't afford based on outcomes you can't control. Rakkan makes you ignore warning signs because you keep telling yourself that things will work out. Rakkan makes you confuse hoping with planning. The 3 Rakkan patterns that bankrupt people. Pattern 1 is optimistic budgeting. This sounds like, quote, I'll probably get a bonus, so I can spend as if I already have it. End quote. Pattern 2 is optimistic debt. This sounds like, quote, I'll definitely be making more money soon, so this debt is fine. End quote. Pattern 3 is optimistic neglect. This sounds like, quote, I don't need to save for emergencies. Nothing bad will happen. And if it does, something will work out. End quote. All 3 patterns feel positive in the moment. All 3 patterns guarantee financial destruction. Chapter 3. The 4 ways Rakkan destroys wealth. Why does unrealistic optimism keep you broke? Let me give you 4 devastating reasons. Reason 1. Rakkan inflates income expectations. Rakkan makes you overestimate your future income. You tell yourself, I'll get a raise. I'll get promoted. I'll get a bonus. Maybe you will. Probably you won't. At least not as much as you hope, and not as soon as you hope. Here's the data you need to know. The average annual raise in America is 3%. That's only $2,000 on a $65,000 salary. But James expected 10 to 15% raises. He expected $5,000 to $10,000. He budgeted his life for this increase. It didn't happen. His budget collapsed. Kenji expected 0 raises. Anything above 0 was a bonus. He budgeted for his current income, not his hoped-for income. His budget worked. Here's the Rakkan pattern. You hope for a $5,000 raise. You spend as if you already have it. You get a $2,000 raise instead. Now you're $3,000 short. You go into debt to cover the gap. You repeat this pattern every single year. Over 10 years, this pattern creates $30,000 in unexpected debt. Reason 2. Rakkan underestimates expenses. Rakkan makes you believe that expenses will stay low or even decrease. You tell yourself, I won't have any emergencies. My car will last forever. I'll never get sick. Insurance will cover everything. Wrong. Expenses always increase. Always. Cars break down. People get sick. Insurance has deductibles. Life happens. Let me show you James's Rakkan expense assumptions. For car maintenance, James thought, quote, it's new. Won't need repairs. End quote. The reality, $1,200 in repairs in year 3. For health, James thought, quote, I'm healthy. Won't need doctors. End quote. The reality, $3,000 emergency room visit in year 2. For his insurance deductible, James thought, quote, I'll never use it. End quote. The reality, $2,000 deductible when he actually needed the insurance. Total unexpected expenses over 5 years for James, $23,000. All of it went on credit cards. All of it accrued 19% interest. Compare that to Kenji's strategic assumptions. Kenji assumed $1,000 per year in car expenses and set it aside monthly. He assumed $2,000 per year in health expenses and set it aside monthly. He assumed his insurance deductible would be needed eventually and set it aside monthly. When expenses happened to Kenji, he had cash ready. When expenses happened to James, he only had debt. Reason 3. Rakkan prevents emergency planning. Rakkan tells you this. I don't need an emergency fund. I'll be fine. Nothing bad will happen. Then something bad happens. Your car breaks down. Your job gets cut. You have a medical emergency. And you have zero preparation. James's emergency fund was $0. His reasoning was, quote, emergency funds earn nothing. I'll invest instead. And besides, I won't have emergencies. I'm careful. End quote. In year 3, James lost his job. It took him 4 months to find a new one. With no emergency fund, he went $18,000 into debt just surviving those 4 months. He never recovered from this. Kenji's emergency fund was fully funded at 6 months of expenses, $24,000. His reasoning was, quote, I hope I never need it, but if I do, I'm prepared. Hope is not a plan. End quote. When Kenji lost his job in year 4, he had his emergency fund ready. It took him 3 months to find a new job. He used $9,000 from his emergency fund. He took on no new debt. He experienced no financial crisis. Same job loss. Opposite outcomes. The emergency fund made all the difference. Reason 4. Rakkan delays necessary action. Rakkan keeps telling you this. I'll start saving next month. I'll deal with that debt later. I'll invest when I make more money. But next month never comes. Later never arrives. The extra money gets spent immediately. James delayed everything. He told himself, I'll start my emergency fund after this vacation. He told himself, I'll pay off my credit cards after my next raise. He told himself, I'll invest once I get my bonus. 5 years of delays. 5 years of no progress. 5 years where hoping completely replaced planning. Start small. In his second month, he started paying extra on his debt with $50. In his third month, he started investing with $50. Small amounts. Immediate action. No waiting for perfect conditions. Over 5 years, Kenji's small immediate actions compounded into massive results. James's delays compounded into disaster. Chapter 4. Strategic optimism, the balance. Strategic optimism is not pessimism. It's not negative thinking. It's optimism combined with planning. Hope combined with backup. Belief combined with preparation. Here's the strategic optimism formula. Hope for the best. Plan for the worst. Build for the middle. Hope for raises, promotions, and bonuses. But don't spend them until you actually have them. Plan for job loss, emergencies, and unexpected expenses. Have cash ready if they happen. Build for the realistic middle. Moderate raises, normal expenses, occasional emergencies. 3 questions strategic optimists ask. Question 1. If my optimistic outcome doesn't happen, does this decision still work? James bought the $35,000 car hoping for raises. When raises didn't happen, the decision destroyed him. Kenji bought the $12,000 car that worked regardless of whether he got raises. When raises didn't happen, he was completely fine. Question 2. Am I making this decision based on current reality or hoped for future? Decisions based on current reality are sustainable even if nothing improves. Decisions based on hoped for future collapse if those hopes don't materialize. James made every single decision based on his hoped for future. Kenji made every single decision based on his current reality. Question 3. If I'm wrong about my optimistic assumption, can I recover? James assumed he'd get promoted. He couldn't recover when he didn't get that promotion. Kenji assumed he wouldn't get promoted. When he did get promoted, it was a bonus, not a necessity for survival. Here's the strategic optimism practice. For every financial decision, ask yourself this. Is this hope or is this a plan? Are you buying something because you hope you'll afford it later? That's Rakkan. Stop. Are you buying something because you can afford it right now and it'll still work if your income doesn't increase? That's strategic. You can proceed. Are you taking on debt because you hope to pay it off with future raises? That's Rakkan. Stop. Are you taking on debt only if you can pay it off with your current income? That's strategic. You can proceed. Let me tell you Kenji's results after 10 years. By planning for the worst, hoping for the best, and building for the middle, Kenji achieved the following. His emergency fund was fully funded. He never had to use it in a crisis because he was always prepared. His debt was 0. His investments totaled $135,000. His car got upgraded after year 7, and he paid cash for it. His apartment got upgraded after year 5, and it was still affordable. His stress level was minimal. He was prepared for anything. Kenji's optimism about the future never required him to bet his present on it. So here's what you need to understand about optimism and wealth. Optimism itself is not the problem. Rakkan is the problem. Unrealistic optimism. Hope without planning. Belief without preparation. Strategic optimism builds wealth. Delusional optimism destroys it. You can be optimistic about your future. You should be optimistic. But your present decisions should work, even if your optimistic future doesn't happen. Hope for raises. But don't spend them before you actually have them. Believe good things are coming, but prepare for bad things just in case. Trust the universe if you want, but build your safety net anyway. The Japanese understand this truth. Rakkan feels good in the moment, but creates disaster. Strategic optimism requires discipline, but creates security. Here's your challenge this week. Look at your last 5 financial decisions. Ask yourself honestly, were they based on current reality or hoped for future? If they were based on hoped for future, that's Rakkan, and it will bankrupt you eventually. Then come back and comment, I caught myself in Rakkan. I'm switching to strategic optimism now. If this video made you realize your positive attitude might be your biggest financial liability, you're not alone. But now you know the difference between hope and planning. Subscribe to Monetisum for more wisdom that builds wealth through reality, not fantasy. Remember this, hope is not a strategy. Planning is a strategy. Be optimistic about your future, but be prepared for your present. Ancient principles. Modern prosperity. This is Monetism. Thank you for watching.